to the commentary booth where we watch and you guessed it, commentate on the week that was in movies and TVs. Um, this is a flashback episode, and it's also an American takeover because I wanted to do it, and because Jamie said I could.
And
Anyway,
then
so
she
I'm your
immediately
temporary.
regretted that decision.
I did. I really did regret it the moment that light came on. Anyway, so I'm your temporary host slash usually on here every now and then, Corrina Mabey, and I'm joined by our normal, lovely, shining host, Jamie Apps, who lists his favorite movie as Cars, Disney's Pixar Cars, and his favorite TV show as South Park. Yeah, you're welcome for that. Mainly because I got one of those right, and the other one was just because we recently watched Cars for the first time, and he loved it.
I'm channeling my inner Randy Marsh right now.
He's drawing out the stash because he doesn't know if he wants to be like a patrol on patrol or if he wants to, like, I don't know, be a superhero villain kind of thing. But it looks fun.
It's weird. I keep
It's
getting
weird,
a glimpse
yeah.
of it. Like when I'm eating, I get like a glimpse of it. I'm like, what the? Oh.
It's like a Tom Selleck, like 80s stash going on kind of thing. But I feel like you're the odd man out because that is a very common trend I've noticed over in the Outback and stuff with you guys. Like those stashes and like mustache things.
Yeah. And I figure since we're doing a movie that's in like, when was it released? 68 or something?
Fuck you. This movie was released. Our movie of the week, it was released in 1979, and it is Ridley Scott's Alien.
70s, 80s, mustache time.
Close enough. Yeah. I mean, you know. So, yes, keeping up with the theme of almost 80s, yes, we are doing a refresher of the 1979 classic Alien, directed by Ridley Scott. This is our refresher course movie kind of introduction in anticipation for the upcoming release of Alien Romulus. So, prior to finding out about Romulus coming out, Jamie had never seen Alien. The only thing he had seen in this franchise was Alien versus Predator, which is a fucking sham. And so I took it
I'd
upon
seen Prey
myself.
too. That's okay. I'd seen
Prey is
Prey.
part of the Predator franchise. Do not get them confused. People will come for you. I promise
Yeah, but
you.
they link now. The one that I saw linked them.
Anyway. Yes, to introduce and get Jamie ready for this, I thought it was a great idea to go down the path of the Alien franchise. And so we have finished, as of yesterday, we have gotten all the way up and finished Prometheus, and Covenant will be our next and final movie in this entire franchise. So yeah, we're going to start with the original one. First off, what's your opinion on this masterpiece? Because you know how much I love this, and that's why I'm doing this episode.
Well, I also must say, I pretty much knew the entire story anyway from Simpsons references and other pop culture references to Alien. But yeah, having watched the movie, I enjoyed it. They're all very different, which is weird. This first one is very much like character driven, particularly Ripley, horror thriller, sci-fi. It doesn't rely on jump scares or really gore. Like there's a lot of the deaths kind of occur. Apart from the chest burster scene, that's pretty gory. Everything else kind of occurs off screen. Like they die and they're gone.
Yeah, you hear it. It plays on your your senses more or less, aside from sight. Like it plays on your other senses of like listening to things and just seeing like the remnants of what happened. And you
Yeah,
just
it's not like you see someone get like picked up and tore in half or anything. It's just like, oh, they got ambushed and they're dead in the dark tunnel somewhere. And it's all about like just building that tension throughout. It just constantly builds up the tension and the dread. And I went and rewatched it yesterday just to double refresh.
So proud of you.
There's a big time gap between the introduction to this movie and the first death. Like it really does like, let's really draw it out and get everybody familiar with these characters, attached to these characters, build the tension of shit, there's something in this ship now. And then someone dies. And then there's another big gap before another person dies. and then all of a sudden it's like, and now everybody dies. It's like
Yes.
the graph that goes, zip.
Yes. I love that about this film. Like they really I feel like this movie was I feel myself it was kind of like an advanced movie for its time. Like
Mm.
you didn't have a ton of like sci-fi things to go off of, and you definitely didn't have a sci-fi slash horror element really out there in the world aside from maybe like indie films and stuff that was like foreign films probably. So this was like a really fun introduction to that to see how the audience was going to respond and if it was going to do well. And I appreciate the fact that they did not just start out with killing people left and right. It really was, let's give it almost an hour worth of this movie to exploration, how they are coming about this, what's going on, and X, Y, and Z. So yeah, I'm with you on that. I love that.
Yeah, I feel like before this, all of the sort of horror stuff was your slashes where there's like just a murderer running around, or your sort of monsterverse stuff like
Hmm.
your zombies and your vampires and your Frankensteins and stuff like that. And then this comes in and kind of takes that monstery type thing with the alien, but puts it in space and gives you
Hmm.
something fresh and new there. And yeah, it definitely was revolutionary for film, and I think that's a testament now to seeing how many horror directors and stuff look back and say that's the movie. Like Eli Roth said he went and saw it as like an 8-year-old, which is pretty nuts.
Hmm.
And he was like,
Yeah.
okay, this is the movie that made him want to make horror movies. And it's like, wow.
It's incredible. This movie had such a big role in so many people's lives, and it's just so refreshing. Also, this film, the main character, as you mentioned, it's Ripley. So this is played by our lovely leading lady Sigourney Weaver. Which again, this movie we prior to this, in any horror movie per se, it was mainly the female character was always end up like dead, or like
The
whatever
damsel
have
in
you.
distress.
Yeah, exactly. She was that strong, balls to the walls, nitty gritty from the beginning, like taking control of the situation and just going from there. And we really see her character blossom. And I love it because
Is
then
she
it
like
set it up for,
the final girl, the first final girl type character?
in my opinion, I feel like she is because she made it, she did it, and then she didn't do it just once. She did it three more times. She was the only constant, repetitive character, aside from a xenomorph, in the original quad of the movies. Like, forgetting about all the other stuff that came out, but Alien through Alien Resurrection, Ripley was the one constant character that always came back, and she owned every single role, at least in my opinion. I loved her for it, and her evolution as a character just was fantastic through all of the films, even if Resurrection was a shit film. Um, but
And she
we're
was like
not
a
going there.
relative unknown when they cast her too. Like she was just doing
Yeah.
Broadway stuff.
Yeah.
And not big
Fun.
Broadway stuff, like off Broadway small production.
Yeah, she was kind of unknown. And fun fact, Meryl Streep was actually supposed to be playing the role of Ripley. So I feel like if that had happened, this would have led down a very different path for Meryl Streep, and I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, I don't know if the film would have been as good because like obviously putting a well-known actress in that spot changes the dynamic. Whereas when
Yes.
everyone's unknown, you would have looked at it and been like, all of these people could die. There's no sort of, oh, this is 8 unknown people and there's one like megastar. Obviously the
Mm-hmm.
megastar is living.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Easy peasy.
very different
But yeah,
dynamic. And did you see why Meryl Streep wasn't cast? It
I did
wasn't
not
because they didn't
actually.
like her.
No, I didn't see it. I read that she was supposed to, and I stopped reading at that point because I was like, I'm sure as fuck glad she did not get casted here.
Yeah, her partner at the time had just passed away. So they
Well,
didn't contact her out of like respect for that and went
respect.
with Sigourney Weaver instead.
Which, I mean, honestly, I feel like it probably did both of them justice because Meryl Streep's had a fantastic fucking career. And I don't
Mhm.
feel like Alien would have been anything big to add to her list other than just a fucking paycheck. But Sigourney Weaver, I feel like this movie really put her on the map. And she did such unique things afterwards. I mean, shit, she made it all the way into fucking Avatar. So Like
And they,
it's
for someone
it's
so
tough for her.
unknown too, they gave Sigourney Weaver a lot of leeway in this. Like the part at the end where she's singing the "You Are My Star" like
Yes,
thing,
Star
repeating that
Star
over
from
and
the Rolling Stones.
yeah, when she's repeating that to like calm her nerves and stuff. Apparently, that wasn't in the script. That was just like something she thought the character would do to like suppress her nerves and like keep a level head in that moment. So like to let her
Yeah,
do something like that is pretty wild. I imagine they
it
did
did.
takes without it, and then
Right.
the
It
take
just
that they ended
worked.
up using was the one that worked with that in there.
Yeah. And she's like I said, she all of her scenes were such a strong kind of like character development for her. Like I don't feel like I saw her in a moment of weakness at all, and she never really second guessed herself on anything. She kind of just took charge when everybody else goes. I was just like, we're fucked.
Even that from the moment the crew leave the ship and she sort of becomes the head of the
Captain.
ship at that moment.
Yeah.
Um, like she's telling them, like, you can't bring that person back on here. Like, yes, they're probably going to die, but you can't bring them on here. You're going to risk us all. And
Yeah.
they
She's
overrule her, and it's like, oh, okay. She
fuck
was
you too.
in that moment, even like, no, 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 we shouldn't do that.
Yeah. So to add to our cast of characters, so Gurney Weaver was relatively unknown. However, we have Ian Holm in this movie as the figured out robot who is fucking psycho. And then John Hurt was also in this film. He's been in a shit ton of things too. And unfortunately, he is our lovely sacrifice essentially in the beginning of this film.
Mm-hmm.
And he dies in a very gruesome fucking way. But yeah, this movie had looking back to see how many people actually just like gave their like even like little bitty spots to it was really interesting to see. And I noticed that as well going through the Alien series with you, just how many fucking people are in this franchise. Like, even all the way up to Prometheus. Like, there were so many fucking people, whether they were known or unknown back when they were in these movies. It's just crazy.
Yeah, that's the fun part about going back to old movies like this. You see people in the background or in minor roles where you're like, they become a massive star.
Yes,
Like
absolutely. It's so much fun.
I saw a clip on Twitter the other day of some random like TV show, and or it might have been a movie. It was just a 10-second clip, and this couple walk into a building, and then they speak to the receptionist, and the receptionist is Lisa Kudrow, like a month or two before Friends debuted.
That's
It's
insane.
like, whoa, that movie
Right?
had
It's
no
so
idea who they had.
crazy. No, and it's absolutely nuts to see this. So like obviously Ian Holm plays this crazy he seems pretty fine at first, but we learn that he is a synthetic robot afterwards with ulterior motives going through this film, and he is fucking god awful. Um
These
Absolutely
movies make me want
bonkers.
to be a robot racist. Just
Dude,
saying.
for real. Like aside from Bishop, who thank you, Aliens, for introducing the only good synthetic in this entire fucking franchise. Um but yeah, no, I mean, Ian Holm was insane and such a good like additive to that. Like he really put it on great. Um, I
Yeah, these are like looking back, these are like the progenitor for fuck AI.
yeah, pretty
Like in a
much.
modern
And
in a
like
modern setting, it's like, yeah, this is why we don't want AI doing everything.
for real. And like that's why like no offense, but like I know the Tesla vehicles are like all out and about and everybody's about them, but I'm just like, man, if like a synthetic robot human can do that, imagine what your like your AI car could do.
Yeah,
Just
well, they've
mind of its own.
they've driven one of them drove off a cliff because it thought that's where the road went. Um,
So
I saw another one the other day on Twitter where these people were it might have been on TikTok. They were in their car, they were using the self-driving function. It got to their destination, and instead of parking, it kept driving, and they were like, where are we going? Because they're looking at the map. It didn't have a destination on the map. It just kept driving, and they were like, oh, we'll just go for this adventure. We'll see where it takes us. It
yep.
randomly took them to like a Mormon church out in the middle of the desert, and they were like, what the hell?
Yeah. So, moral of the story, don't trust a robot or any kind of AI bullshit for that matter with your life.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. So, getting into the fun things of this movie, one of my favorite things in the world. So, um, yes, the crew in summarization, the crew ends up getting a distress signal on their way home. Everybody's in cryo sleep, and this distress signal just goes off, and they're woken up out of cryo sleep to answer this and investigate, which they probably shouldn't fucking do because we've learned don't investigate things on dormant planets. Please don't. Um,
Especially when they didn't know what the signal was. They're just getting this
yeah.
repeating signal, and they were like, we won't bother translating that first. We'll just go there."
Let's just go and land on it. It looks fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
And then, like,
So yeah,
later when they do finally translate it, they're like, that's not a SOS. That's a warning."
yeah. Please don't
Whoops.
do this. Don't come here. So yeah, this is where things get good and fun. They're exploring, they've got all their suits on and they are just like, hey, what's all this shit? Like they land in spots where they shouldn't land in this, surrounded by fucking giant eggs. And the eggs are just kind of gross. I found out that the eggs, when they open up and reveal our lovely face huggers, that is cow intestine that was used in that to make the inside of it. Also, when they shine the
Gross.
light into into the egg to figure out what's in it, it was someone's hand inside of a glove moving around.
Yeah, that's
Um,
that's something I love about this movie. It's because of when it was made, obviously. It doesn't rely on CG and stuff. It's pretty much all practical effects. All the
yes,
ships
and
are like
puppetry.
scale models. Yeah, and like even
Yeah,
the xenomorph is a person in a suit.
yeah, it's massive. This guy who played him was 6'10". I have it written down. I think he was six something, 6'10",
Six
something like
eight or
that. Yeah,
something.
6'10". Yeah, he's massive, like super fucking tall, and they had to make it to fit him, and they made it just for him essentially. And I'm just like, dude, that's
Yeah,
a
they picked
big
him because
fucking
they like
suit.
randomly saw him at a restaurant or something, and he was like super tall, really skinny, and they were like, well, they picked him because they thought if they put him in a suit, he's like
Yes,
so abnormal looking
lanky.
and
Yeah,
lanky that people won't look at it and be like, "Oh, it's a guy in a suit."
yeah, it just looks like an actual alien, what you would think would be an alien, and then when you add the headpiece on, it's just even more. It adds even more to his scale, and that headpiece is massive.
Yeah,
It's just
and then like
absolutely
Ridley
bonkers.
Scott is also really genius in the cinematography with this too because he doesn't like you never get like a straight perfect shot of the xenomorph. You kind of get
No.
side on angles or weird like angles of it, so it is very hard to look at him like, oh, it's just a human shape. It's just like hunched over. Like it's all these
Yeah,
weird angles where you're like, oh, what even is this thing?
you don't really see its full form until like the last epic scene, like the ending sequence when he like pops out of like the little whatever it is,
His
like
little
the
cubby
cooling
hole.
vents. Yeah, in the escape pod, and he actually like comes out. Like that's when you see like how pretty massive he is because he's just like, oh shit.
There's a fun fact about that cubby hole sequence too.
Yeah, go ahead, hit me. Let's go.
When
I
he's
love it.
when he's hidden in there and she discovers him, they actually put him in there and then built the set. Like the set was like uh, they could pull it apart and stuff. It was basically like flat
Yeah.
pack. They put him in and then had to build the set around him so that it was really hard to see him. Like he couldn't just like climb in. So you had
Yeah,
to
he was
get
just
in and
camouflaged
then
completely.
yeah, and then they had to build the set around him. And apparently it took multiple takes to get that right because every time he had to like try and do the like crawl out part, the
Yes.
suit would get like caught up on stuff. And a couple of times it like even tore the suit open. So they had to like obviously scrap that and go again.
Yep.
So
It's
that's
insane.
pretty cool.
I love it. I love that this movie played on so many practical effects. I don't know if you read about it, but it was one of my fun, like my favorite fun facts I ever found while researching the film is the sequence where the chest burst happens on
Hmm.
screen. How it was just that was the initial reaction from the entire cast. They knew it was going to happen, but they did not know that it was going to splurt blood out like that. And the reactions from them were pretty intense. And the lady slipped on blood.
Yeah. And the fact that it failed the first time too. The first time they tried
Yes,
to shoot it because it wasn't powerful
it
enough to
got
tear
stuck.
through the shirt. So they had to
Yep.
redo it and like cut the shirt so that it would just pop straight through.
Yeah, and then it just like
But then they
really
splice
blew
those
up
two cuts
everywhere.
together.
Yep.
Like
It
the
was
final
nuts.
scene that we see is partly that first take and
Yep.
partly the second take, because Ridley Scott saw that first take and was like, the idea of it struggling to get through the shirt made
It's
it
not
even
good.
more. No, he said he liked it. It made it look like it was more intense than it would have been if it just popped straight through easy.
I don't like it. It looks like I don't. It's a weird thing for me. It looks weird. Like
It's supposed to look like it's like
I
struggling to
know.
get out of his chest, so it makes sense.
It reminds me of like a snake like pushing its way through an egg kind of moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like one of those weird things for me. Um, that whole to be fair, the whole baby alien thing grosses me out in general. Like that actual like thing just is gross looking with its little baby teeth.
Mhm. And all of the
It's
like goo that's all over it, and then like later when the mouth opens and the goo that comes out of it. Again,
yes,
practical effects. They used KY jelly
cake
lube.
jelly.
It's like, ugh.
I was like, oh God, could you imagine how much money they made off of that? Like, damn, the lube business is just like booming right now from this one movie.
And like even the scene where they, you know how they autopsy the face hugger once it comes off his face?
Yes,
They used fresh shellfish, 4
yes.
oysters, and a sheep's
Blech.
kidney to recreate its internal organs. But
Yes,
they had to film it really quickly because under all of the stage lights,
it was
all
getting
of those
gross and disgusting.
things, yeah, all of those things started to smell really bad.
Yes. Yep, yep, yep. It's the same thing with so later on in the film when Ripley destroys Ash and it's just his fucking head that's there. That was a bunch of
Mhm.
more stuff. They used pasta and caviar, catheters, fiber optics, and they used milk in some of the scenes and then in other scenes they just use like a water mixture. But yeah, it was just getting fucking disgusting.
Oh yeah, it's gross.
I can't imagine the smell on that set. And I mean,
Yeah,
to
because
be
under the
fair,
studio lights, like the milk and the intestines, and
ugh,
especially the shellfish would and the oysters,
yeah,
they
no,
would have
thank
not
you.
smelled good.
No, and what's crazy to me too is with how well this movie came out, they filmed it in 14 weeks. That is such a short timeline to film for
Mm.
like what I consider short. I feel like it's a pretty short time to film something this on this such a scale. Like they had multiple like locations and then they had the small scale models and stuff like that that they had to work with. So I feel like 14 weeks is not a very long time to film things.
I suppose it's 3 months. I think that's pretty standard.
I feel like I guess maybe like back then, I don't know. I feel like movies nowadays, I feel like they're in filming for forever because they just take so long.
That's
Like
because
I read
they're
about
all fucking CGI shit.
I guess that is what it is because yeah, now we're working with practical effects whereas, or back then we were
Yeah,
working with
you just
practical effects and now we're just doing computer shit and it's taking
yeah.
forever.
Like, even in Deadpool and Wolverine, there's a scene where they're dancing in the forest, and
Yeah.
instead of just going out to a forest, it's green screened. Like, why?
Why?
Go out,
Why?
just go
You have
find a
all these
forest.
places to your just go outside in your backyard. You gotta find a damn forest somewhere.
Yeah. Um, Another thing I read about the facehugger too is the flesh tone
hmm
was not the original plan as well.
No.
They apparently wanted to paint it green, and then like I guess to match like the green hue of like the eggs and stuff.
yeah.
But then when Ridley Scott they did a screen test with it as the flesh tone, Ridley Scott was
Yeah.
like, "No, let's go with that. That's creepier because it's like attaching to your face and kind of trying to blend in and hide, even though it's
yeah.
like very obvious that it's on your face. Whereas if it was bright green, it wouldn't even be hidden at all."
Yep. Absolutely.
Are you a trading card collector or a fan of Australian pro wrestling? If so, you're not going to want to miss out on the limited edition Australian wrestling cards. Each set includes 50 packs of 10 cards, including some of the country's top wrestling talents like Robbie Eagles, Shane Haste, Madison Eagles, Hartley Jackson, and they have Shaza McKenzie listed, although she is not a favorite. The velocities, and a lot more. There's wrestlers, referees, announcers, commentators that are featured, giving you a full appreciation of the Australian independent scene. The cards sold out a lot faster because cards are hot right now, as I'm sure Jeremy Lambert will tell you. But you can order your Australian wrestling cards now at Pario Magazine. That's PARIO magazine.com.au/AUSWRES cards. Follow Australian Wrestling Cards on social media at AusResCards for updates. Join the hundreds of fans who have already discovered the excitement of Australian wrestling cards.
This movie, in case you didn't know about it, it was actually entered into the preservation system, or I guess it was selected for preservation in the U.S. National Film Registry in 2002. It's a national treasure, at least in my opinion, and in the U.S. opinion, because they've preserved it.
Yep.
That's how I
ranked
feel
as
about
the
it.
7th best sci-fi film by the American Film Institute as well in 2008.
Yep, I love it. It's still holding strong. I read it. It still has a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes and it's holding an 89% on Metacritic, which is fantastic. I'm really happy with that. It's so funny when I was looking this up too. Like, I knew it was rated R because obviously, like, the visuals and all this other shit. But then when I was looking at it, it said M and AU, and I keep forgetting that you guys don't have an R rating.
Oh, we
So I
do.
was like, is M the worst? Oh, you have an R. Is it worse than M?
Yeah. We go
Oh,
G,
is it like?
we go G for general, so anyone can watch that. Like
Mm.
PG, which is parental guidance. M, which
Okay.
15 plus.
Okay.
No, M is just like mature. MA is 15 plus.
Okay.
It's mature audience, and then R is 18 plus.
Oh, okay. That's
So
interesting.
M is
So you have,
like
an extra added.
pretty tame. M's pretty tame.
That's compared to us, because with us it's G, PG, PG-13, and then R and then X. So like we don't have like the little extra fluff like y'all do. So R is like one of the worst ratings you can get before it becomes an adult film.
Ours
so that
is
is
the last one before adults, but yeah.
Yeah, that is so crazy to me that y'all are thinking that this is okay. Although, to be
And
fair, I've looked at a lot of different things like that. It's weird. Like, this movie's rated R, and then I looked and I was like, they don't really, like, it's mainly just for the violence. I don't even think they really say, like, a lot of, like, they don't really drop a lot of curse words in this movie.
No, there's no swearing.
No, Beetlejuice is rated PG-13 over here, and he says fuck in the middle of the movie.
Because I think you're allowed
It's rated
to say
PG-13.
I think you're allowed to say
Maybe,
one.
okay. Is that what it, okay.
Yeah, like, it's violent, but it's not really. Like, there's no swearing.
Mm-mm.
Probably the most brutally violent thing is the chest burster.
Yes.
And that's a little bit of blood, but that's fine.
Yeah.
And then when the robot gets killed, that's Ash gets murdered. That's pretty violent, but it's not bloody because it's that white goo. So it's like,
yeah, it's nuts.
It's not,
and all the blood is green because it's the acid blood. So like, it's not even like red for the alien when he gets like cut or
which is probably why it got away with being M here, not MA or
that makes sense. It's just like, so weird because I feel like nowadays maybe because some of the PG-13 films I've seen, I'm just like, how did they get away with a PG-13 rating on this? Because this is glorious fucking shit. And so now looking back this, I wonder if they ever like were to remake it again, like exactly how it is in its original format, if it would get re-rated.
Yeah, I think if they re-rated it now, it'd be much less. It wouldn't be that's for sure.
And compared to what's out there nowadays, like absolutely.
Like Deadpool and Wolverine is R-rated over there and here, and they say fuck 117 or 118 times or something, and it's bloody as all hell. Yeah,
that's insane. So yeah, for me, it's so funny to see that this got an R rated, and I think if I'm not mistaken, I feel like we watched Prometheus last night. I think that got away with a PG-13, and granted, like it is not nearly as intense of like brutal killings, but it's just very interesting to see how the ratings have changed, in my opinion.
It also does have a very intense medical procedure.
That is very true. Maybe it didn't get a PG-13 rating. I'll look at it later.
I loved the ratings warning when we turned that on yesterday. It was like violence, sci-fi, and a medical procedure. And I was like, what?
Yeah, your reactions were priceless on this one. On that, your reactions were priceless to this too. Honestly, like I loved it. watching this movie and like having you like message me through it, and I was just like, this is what I live for, to have people watch movies that I love, because I get these kind of reactions, these what the fucks, just randomly.
On the topic of medical procedures too, I did have to write down a note for this one as well when they are after they get him back on the ship and he's got the face hugger on him and they're doing the kind of like
The procedure.
medical exam and they're wearing nebulizer masks as, I don't know, quarantine masks. Problem is, nebulizer masks have breathing holes like here so that the air can get in and out.
Yeah,
And then there's no hose attached, so they're
they're
not getting any.
anything.
I was like, that's not doing anything. That's not protecting you from anything. That's not giving you like clean air from outside. Like that just looks
Nope.
silly. And I think that's part
There's
of the whole
nothing.
like just figure it out with bits and pieces to try and make it look futuristic. Let's make the
Yes,
rope with all of that other bits and pieces that you mentioned. And
absolutely.
I think they got away with it because their budget was only $11 million.
Yeah, it's
For a
insane with
science
such a
fiction
small.
film is tiny.
Yeah, it is such a small budget. I mean, I guess in the late 70s maybe that was average, but it's also one of those movies that they didn't really know how it was going to do, so they were kind of hesitant to throw a lot of money at it, probably because with something so out of the box for what the normal standard was for a sci-fi film, who knows.
I think they'd be pretty happy now, though.
That movie has, like I said, this movie has spawned so many different things. It's spawned video games, VR video games, comic books, and an entire fucking franchise. It's got 6 movies plus 2 spin-off movies, like, and a 7th additional movie coming out too. Like,
Have you
it's
seen
just
the
nuts.
gross income that this movie has earned too since it came out?
So I got conflicting numbers. It said anywhere from 104 to 203. Nothing's been confirmed on it. Like, they
Yeah,
won't confirm a number on it.
according to Wikipedia, it has $184.7 million globally.
Mhm.
Off $11 million?
That's
I think
nuts.
I think they'd be happy with that.
Absolutely. It's one of those movies that like you see it and like you resonate with even like the smallest like shot from it. So it way back in the day, not way back, but a while ago, there was a ride, and I told you about this when I took you to Disney for your first time, and we were at Hollywood Studios going to Star Wars, and I told you that there used to be a ride called the Great Movie Ride, and this that ride has now since been replaced. However, this movie was so iconic that it had an entire portion of this ride dedicated to it, where you would go through part of the Nostromo and you would see Ripley like with her fucking torch gun in the corner, and she's got her cat case carrier with her for Jonesy, who BT dubs Jonesy is my favorite thing in the world in this movie, her cat. And you while you're going through the Nostromo part of it, there was a scene where like the alien would come out of the ceiling and spit like water at you while you're going through it on your car. It was the coolest thing in the world. And I miss it so much, but that's how crazy this movie got, is like it had places all over the place, and little excerpts here and there and references all over in pop culture.
I wonder if Romulus does really well, did Disney try and bring Alien back into the park somehow?
I don't know. I feel like it's going to be an interesting take on it. I highly doubt it, because it's not what you would consider to be like a friendly, like family
Yeah, not a
friendly kind of.
family-friendly one. If it was Universal, they
Yeah,
100% would.
right. And what's so funny too is before Disney got their hands on this, ages ago, there was a Halloween Horror Nights house that was an Alien versus Predator house when that movie first came out, actually, and that was such a fun house. But yeah, it would be really interesting to see. I mean, I would love it. Supposedly there is a series in the works for Alien. I don't know how true that's going to stay, but it has been rumored online and stuff like that that there might be a series coming out eventually. I'm
Interesting.
really stoked though for Romulus. It comes out. The timeline of Romulus it's been confirmed as being between the first and the second Alien film. Um, None of the characters are very familiar. We don't really know a whole lot about it. There's not even like a really big synopsis on it, other than the fact that they stumble across an alien life form and have to fight for their lives kind of moment.
Is what's her name? The girl, Kaylee Spenny.
Hmm.
Is she playing Ripley?
So Ripley's not a confirmed character in this movie. There hasn't been any talk about her actually being in this movie, so I don't really know.
Oh no, yeah, she's
Yeah,
playing Rain Carradine, so it's a new character by the looks of it.
I'll be really
Yeah,
interested to see
I
that.
wonder if it's just like a separate ship, so they're allowing them to be free, and then maybe they do the whole. At the end of this one, they end up on the same ship or cross paths, and they do the Ripley cameo,
I'm kind of
which will be hard
hoping
though
that.
because Sigourney Weaver's much older now.
Well, and also during this time frame is when Sigourney Weaver's character is supposed to be in cryosleep and gets lost
Yeah,
in space until she's found in Alien 2. That's where I think this my whole theory is that this film is going to take place around Ripley's daughter. But that's just me being out of the box and really hopeful, because Ripley mentions that she had a daughter when she's in Alien 2. However, she states that it's obviously been a long time because she finds out that she's been asleep for X amount of fucking years and her daughter would be long dead. So
yeah.
it's a stretch, but I mean, who knows? Maybe. Um,
I would assume they at least like reference Ripley at some point in Romulus.
I would hope so. I
But then,
really would
yeah,
hope
again,
so.
like you said, it's hard because it's like it's in that period where nobody else really knows about it yet.
Yeah, nothing's been she technically Ripley's still just floating in space. Nothing's been reported about the Nostromo. Like
Yeah,
no one knows what's going on. And the company, and I'm just calling it the company because throughout this entire movie, they never name drop the Wayland Corporation. Wayland is just speculated because there's the W in a couple
yeah,
different spots.
that's lore that's added in the later films.
Yes, the Wayland Corporation is the one who literally takes over everything, and we see it go all the way through, which is really fun to see now because we've watched Prometheus and you know that they were working for the Wayland Corporation. So that's very, very fun to just like work that all into the whole universe.
Yeah, that's something I realized at the end of watching the first one again that like it has a satisfying ending as that could easily just be a one-off movie.
Yes,
If it hadn't done well, you're still satisfied with the ending. But because it
absolutely.
obviously did so well, it spawned off all of these other franchise entries.
Yep.
And but they still left like enough open areas and lore nuggets to explore later with like prequels and sequels and spin-offs and stuff. So
Yes.
it was good that they didn't like conclusively wrap everything up, but they
Mm-hmm.
didn't leave anything like crazy major open.
Yes.
Like, yes, they say that she's going back into cryosleep. She should reach the frontier in 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
It's an intriguing enough thing to be like, I want to see her get to this place, but it's not like
Yes.
I desperately need to see, oh crap, did she survive?
Right. It's kind of just one of those things like, okay, cool. She's going on her
You
way.
just
She's
assume
going
that, okay,
home.
yeah, she made it, she was fine.
Yeah, and then I love how that just ties in, and she's like, "What do you mean? How long has it been?" And they're just like, "It's been like 60 years, I think, or something like that in the beginning of the second one."
Yeah.
So yeah, it's always been fun. But yeah, this is one of my favorite franchises ever. Unofficial Alien Day is April 26th. Because that is the planet that they land on is LV-426. Every April 26th, I watch this movie, and every April 26th, I wear my alien earrings that I have. Everybody at work knows that I celebrate this wholeheartedly. I walk around all day long and I'm just like, Happy Alien Day. Do you need a hug? Like all those
Oh,
kinds of things.
goofus.
I'm such an idiot. It's ridiculous, but I love this movie so much. And it just has a fun place in my heart. And eventually, I plan on getting, because I have my horror tattoos and they're like stupid, like on my legs. My next horror tattoo idea was I wanted to get a face hugger and just have it say free hugs on it. That's what I want. So that'll probably be my next venture onto that
Are
realm.
you getting a xenomorph popcorn bucket?
No, probably not, because they probably won't have them at my movie theater.
They're intense. That's a
Are
big
are they
fucking
as
book.
bad as? I was gonna say, I feel like it's probably pretty large, isn't it? Like it's got to be. I haven't seen pictures of it,
It's just
but
like
I know.
it's like the xenomorph head, but it's like this long,
Oh,
and then
like
like
to scale.
it's in the bucket part is like the head, like a length.
Okay,
It's instead of a deep bucket, it's a long
it's
bucket.
just long. They probably won't have like they never have any cool stuff at my movie theater because it's like a small theater over here. They didn't even have like the creepy Dune bucket or the Wolverine bucket, so I'm not gonna hold my
No, the
breath.
fucking bucket.
I
Did you
have
buy a face hugger phone case yet?
no, I want one. I sent you that and I want it so badly.
It looks so
It's
ridiculous.
so cute. It's so cute. I want it so bad. It's not even funny. I'll have to settle though. I have I collect pops. And so I have the 40th anniversary pop on my shelf of Ripley and the Xenomorph, and they're right next to each other. They face each other. Shut the fuck up. Don't ruin my life. I have
I
all
like
my
it,
things
like
that pair together next to each other.
I liked it throughout this franchise. Like the Xenomorph and Ripley kind of become the Laurie and Mike Myers.
Yes,
They
absolutely.
they
Until
can't escape each other for some reason.
yeah, it's really crazy. And then in the fourth one, they really get close to each other. So
Yeah,
I just keep throwing that back at you because I know how uncomfortable that movie made you,
that
and
was
it's been
gross. That one was
fantastic.
really gross.
Yeah, yeah. Resurrection is just not. You guys can stop at Aliens 3 if you really want to just start on the bandwagon of Alien franchise. You can watch up to Alien 3 and then go straight over to Prometheus and Covenant and skip
You mean
Resurrection
Alien
completely.
Cubed?
Alien Cubed.
Hey, that's what the logo
Alien
is.
Cubed.
The Alien says it's
It's
Alien
true.
Cubed.
It is, and that's another one that's got fucking. When we were watching that one, I was like, "Hey, look, it's the guy from Game of Thrones."
No.
There's just it's ridiculous the amount of people we stack up in these films. But yeah,
You know how this movie clocks in at 1 hour and 57 minutes?
mm-hmm.
Do you know how long the original cut was?
I think it was 2 hours and 23 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. No, was it longer? I saw it was
I
like
think
it was
that's
over
the
2
I
hours.
think that's the director's cut. Is like
Director's
2
cut.
hours something.
Yeah.
The original cut was 3 hours and 12 minutes,
God damn.
which in the 70s, insane. No wonder it didn't
Absolutely
do well.
not.
No,
Yeah,
like,
no,
no
that
wonder
would
the
have never
test
flown.
screening was like, no, fucking no.
Mm-mm. I feel like
Even
they probably
today,
dragged
that's
out
a
a lot of
long
stuff.
movie.
I mean, yeah, unless you're Oppenheimer can pull off a 3-hour fucking movie, but I don't think people sit around for sci-fi movies that are longer than 2 hours. I mean, I've even
Yeah.
struggle bust watching some of the later Star Wars movies because they just went bad. But
Like the Dune movies, they're like 3 hours, and they're like, but like even
Dune
this,
was
like we said, the first death doesn't occur until like almost an hour in.
Yeah,
How long was
It's-
it before someone died in the 3-hour cut?
it was probably just oh, we'll let him walk around with his alien in his chest for a little bit longer before we have it shoot out of him. And this is
Yeah, I kind of.
who knows?
I would hate to think how long it was before someone died, and then that next gap was probably another 45 minutes, nearly an hour.
Yes.
Yeah, I can see why they decided that we need to heavily cut this down. Like they cut out 2/3 of the movie.
Yeah, a ton of it. It's insane. I love it. This movie's been re-released so many times too, in so many different box sets. I'm kind of disappointed. There was a box set that was released, and it was like a 9-disc set that came out, and I already owned every single film. I have all of this entire franchise. When I say entire, I even mean Alien versus Predator, both of those. I have the entire franchise between Blu-ray and DVD. But when I found out that they were releasing a box set of the original 4, I wanted them so bad, and then I found out it was going to be $80 when they were released, and I go, oh, nope, I don't need them that bad. I already own them.
Have you seen the Super Sweet box set where the box is an alien head?
Yes. That's
cool.
If you need to get me a Christmas present, I know what you can find, maybe on eBay.
Yeah, that's a cool one. I saw that and I was like, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, there's
unnecessary
been so
because
many
how the fuck
things.
do you store that on a shelf? That has to become a display piece.
Duh.
That can't just go on your bookshelf with all of your other DVDs.
No, that's gonna go on my wall. I'm gonna get a specific shelf for that set, and then I'll still watch my old ones. That's how that works.
But yeah, as we sort of gear up to Alien Romulus as well, very keen for that one.
Yes.
Fede Alvarez
been-
directing, very cool.
Yeah.
And Kaylee Spaney is brilliant. So
It'll be
pretty
I'm
excited.
really excited about it. It's
Especially as a
so weird.
director, like you love Evil Dead, so for him to be
Mhm.
jumping in to direct it, Don't Breathe was great. So I think it's going to be very
Yeah.
good on recapturing this idea of we don't need to rely on the gore and the violence and jump scares. Like, let's just build the tension. Like, that's what Don't Breathe did so well. And then
Mhm.
when you bring in that Evil Dead stuff, when stuff does go to shit and someone does die, it'll be just as intense.
Yes. And if I'm not mistaken, like he's also very bit like he still obviously uses some CG, but he also does do a lot of practical effects in his films.
Oh yeah, have you seen the sets they built for
So
this movie?
yeah, they're nuts. So
Wild.
I'm so excited that they decided to stay with that kind of theme of not depending solely on computers and stuff like that, because you lose, we've had this conversation multiple times about how you lose quality, and it just doesn't some things just don't come across as well on film when you use a computer versus a practical effect. Sure, it might cost more, but I mean,
Yeah. I'm
pays
sure
off in
there'll
the
be
end.
like elements of like CG to fill in some gaps and bits and pieces, but
Sure.
just seeing like the on-set stills and stuff, like some of the sets that they've built are insane, like huge,
Yeah.
gigantic, like space station stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be really good.
I can't tell you how the moment that I heard this movie was coming out, and then the moment that I saw a face hugger on a poster, I was just like, oh, my little heart.
Yeah, the
'Cause it
posters
had
for
been so
Romulus are
long.
awesome. Every
They
single one
are.
of their posters are like, yep, that's sick. That's cool art
Because
piece.
it's been I don't even remember when Covenant came out. It's been a hot minute though since Covenant came out. So I feel like this is going to be a really great like, hey, did you guys forget about this franchise? Because we're going to like amp it up again, and it's going to be fucking fantastic.
2017, so 7 years.
Yes, it's been quite a minute. So I'm really thrilled about it. Obviously, like Ridley Scott is fantastic, and I'm kind of disappointed that he's not directing it. But I'm really excited to see a new take on it and see how well it does. Considering that, like all the films,
Is he
he only
producing?
directed the first one.
Is he producing though?
He might be producing. I know he only directed the first one, and then he directed Prometheus and Covenant, but he did not have any kind of like director duties in the other
he's
three.
as a producer for Romulus.
Well, then that's good because he'll still have like his little take on it or whatever.
I just found a new word. Alien Romulus is a standalone interquel.
Interquel. Because reboot and requel were not.
No, because it's not a prequel because it's not before the first one.
And it's not a
sequel because it's not after the last one.
Right.
It's an interquel because it's in between two.
And it's not a requel because they're not rebooting anything either. Yeah. It's just kind of continuing.
They're inserting into a little bit of a gap in the timeline.
I mean, good on you.
I'm excited to see how it goes.
Yeah, I'm so excited that you're excited about it. Like, I'm really glad that it caught your attention and you're just like, hey, did you see this? And I'm like, yeah. You wanna go down this pathway of darkness? Let me lead you.
I was excited because I already knew the story. I didn't need to rewatch this stuff.
No, but I feel like if you had gone into Romulus and you hadn't seen this, at least if you hadn't seen the first and the second one, I feel like you would have liked it, but you wouldn't have had as much of an appreciation for it. Like, I feel now going into it, you can appreciate like the character development for the xenomorphs and, kind of have like a better connection and understanding with like creatures, at least. I don't know.
So as we close,
what
do you rate the OG 70-something Alien?
1979 Alien will always be a fucking 10,000 million star in my book because, it's fucking amazing. That's all I can say. When you have a tagline of "in space no one can hear you scream," it's going to be fucking good.
Yeah, It's pretty crazy that their tagline became just like a saying everyone uses.
Yes, but it's fantastic and it fits so fucking well. So yes, this movie will always get 10 bajillion million stars from me.
I'd probably give it a 5 just because of how influential it's been.
Mhm.
Obviously, there are some things where you're like, oh, that pulls me out of it. Like the nebulizer mask was the one thing where I was like, oh, fuck. I think because I'm so familiar with those masks, I was like, no, that's not how those work. But I guess if you had never seen one of those before, you'd be like, yeah, that's just like a cool, like futuristic surgical mask.
Yeah.
Why
must be doing
your
something.
surgical mask would need to be see-through, I don't know.
Just
I-
it just
I guess so
gotta
the
look
other
good.
surgeon can read your lips if they didn't hear you correctly. But, oh, whatever.
Doctor.
Yeah. So yeah, it was 5. It was great. It was definitely better than some of the subsequent ones. And
We should do a review on some of those ones later on in life. when you have like nothing on schedule, we're just gonna revisit the rest of this franchise and see how progressively worse they got. Because
yeah.
Alien and Aliens are the two best films in the franchise, and most people will tell you that Aliens is the best movie in the franchise.
Yeah.
So
After we see Romulus, at the end of Romulus, we'll rank all of them to see where
Okay.
Romulus slots in that rankings.
Yes, because we have so much material now to work off of. I'm so proud of you because you've managed to get through almost all of them.
Yeah, so that's Alien.
Yeah, Alien in a nutshell. We are done. I've managed to semi run this shit show. Not completely, but that's because, I stumble and fumble and I'm just a fucking train wreck, but it's why they created alcohol. So cheers to that.
You doofus. Alrighty. Thanks for listening to the commentary booth. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe on podcast services and on YouTube. You can follow Corrina on Instagram at Miss Corrina Renee, and you can follow me on social media at Jamie Apps Media and at Pario Magazine. The commentary booth is a fan-funded production of Jamie Apps Media. You can support the podcast alongside our magazine, Pario Magazine, on Patreon at patreon.com/Jamie Apps Media. The following people supported at the publisher level or higher, and you cannot fathom how incredibly appreciative we are for their support.